here's the bearing. I'm going to install it now. I better be quick because I don't want it to heat up. So I'll put that in there. Right, we'll use this little block of wood to start driving it in first. Right, I drove it partly in using this piece of wood. I have to be very careful that it's square, but it's now flush with this web, so I need to use the only thing I've got of the same size, which is this piece of pipe, to finish driving it all the way home. And there you go, the bearing is driven all the way home. Can you see that? Driven all the way home by very gently tapping it in with this, which is just a nice size to seat at home, and it is against the lip at the end, which is good because it was heating up very, very quick, and it turns nice and free. What I'll do now is put some of the black lithium grease that came with the kit onto the bearing to protect it in operation, and then we will move on to checking the flywheel. Okay, the pilot bearing is in, you can't really see it, but it's in and greased, with all the excess grease wiped away. I also cleaned out all the bolt holes. Did I mention this before? I cleaned out the bolt holes by taking my cordless drill here with this little piece of wire on it, and then wrapping a piece of paper around it like this, and then simply running the drill in reverse to clean the threads out. I did that, and they're all nice and grease free now. Yeah, now that I've cleaned the threads up, this is the stuff I meant before, the thread locker. You have to put a little line of this on each bolt, which I've also cleaned up and degreased to secure the flywheel in place. This stuff is very important because if those bolts come loose, as I mentioned before, you kind of have serious problems. This was surprisingly expensive, about $7 or $8, I think. I had to get the flywheel resurfaced, which is just being done now. $20 of the machinery they can come up with. It's mainly okay. There is a few marks they couldn't get rid of because it's kind of deep, but that's not on the face. But it's okay. It just needs cleaning up, and but I'm actually going to fit it now. I'll clean it after it's been installed. Okay. Okay, I've got a little gearbox installation tip for you, which might come in handy when you're installing gearboxes on your own, and it's this. Well, as you can see, I've cleaned the gearbox up a little bit. What you need to do is get some bolts the same pitch and thread as the gearbox installation bolts, long ones. Cut the head off them, and if you can, round them off a bit. Then what you do is you screw these into the engine block, and then what you do is you guide the gearbox onto them like that and push it up, and these will help keep the gearbox aligned as you get the bolts in. This really does help install it when you're installing gearboxes on your own, and they're particularly really heavy like this one. So then maybe hope that helps you. Right, so I've mounted the flywheel back onto the end of the crankshaft. And if you remember something I said about the teeth being worn on one side, and I was going to offset it, what I'm going to do is, you can see the bolt holes. You see the bolt holes here. Because I want some good teeth on the starter motor, I'm going to rotate this like that. There you go. That's offset by one bolt now. That should give the starter motor some good teeth to bite onto. I don't think it will affect the balance at all. Right, what I need to do now is start to reinstall the crank bolts. If you remember last time that I said that we need to use this stuff, this thread locker on the bolts. What we will need to do, if we can find the bolts, these bolts, I have cleaned them up, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give them a quick wipe with a clean rag and some thinner, just to take any excess grease off them, because the grease is the enemy of the thread locker. and then I'll start installing them. As you can see, I'm refitting the flywheel bolts, and just to let you know what to do with this thread locker. Make sure the bolt's extremely grease free, and the holes are too. I just use a bit of thinner in this case, and then use a single little line like that of thread locker, put it in, and then insert the bolt in and preliminarily tighten it preliminarily. Let me just put the cap back on this. Excuse me, I can't reach. Just tighten it preliminarily. I'm just using the old useless one here to lightly tighten it up, like that. And then once that's done, we'll need to tighten them up to, these ones in particular, 60 pound-feet with our torque wrench. Right, let me just start torquing these up, and I'll show you the last one. Okay, as you can see, I've had to reinstall the clamp to stop the flywheel from turning. And what I've done is, the bolts were preliminarily tightened up to about 20 pound-feet by hand, or very roughly with the machine. And so I've now used this here, you can't see that, torque wrench, what is it? To tighten them up. This is adjusted to 60 pound-feet, which is the setting for these bolts here. Now you have to tighten these in a star pattern, like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I say do it preliminarily first. You may have to go down 2 or 3 times. Once you've done that, give the actual flywheel a little tap with a hammer to make sure it's seated properly. I've already done that. And then just give them one more finally tighten with the old torque wrench. What you do there? Yep, fell off. You will actually put the torque wrench on and you'll turn it and push it until you hear a click. Hear that click? That means it's hit the torque limit set by twisting the handle here. And that's it, it's done. I've already done all these, so what I need to do now is remove this clamp again. Then I can give this a quick clean, give the pressure plate a quick clean. Take the protector for the pilot bearing off. And I can start installing the clutch plate and the pressure plate. Right, this has been cleaned now. So I can install the friction plate. To do that, the fat part, as you can see here, the fat part goes out towards the pressure plate side here. And to install this, what we need to do is take this tool, which came in the kit, which is the clutch alignment tool, and we put it here through the splines of the clutch plate. And then we take our clutch plate and we lift it up and we place it the end of this end into the pilot bearing hole, which is just there. If I can get it in. Yeah, there we go, like that. There, and that's the clutch mounted and theoretically aligned, but as you can see, there's still a tiny bit of free play in it. You do the final alignment after you put the pressure plate on, which I'll need both hands to do, so I'll do that and then come back to you. Right, as you can see, I fitted the pressure plate. I've put all 6 bolts in, and they're all finger tight. Except that one. It's at this point that you can give the clutch a final alignment, just making sure that the disc's nice and straight in the hole. You can see that. And when you really can be sure the clutch is straight, you take this tool out and you can peer inside the hole. You see that? Straight through the clutch blinds to the pilot bearing. That looks pretty straight to me. Problems you can encounter if the clutch plate is off center by any amount, then you're going to have problems with the gearbox lay shaft or primary shaft not sliding through those splines and into the pilot bearing, which means you'll have to loosen these screws and realign the clutch disc, which is no great hassle, but it's just extra work that you can really do without. Right, now that I've done that, again these are only finger tight, I'll use the evil one here to give these a quick bite. Oops, wrong way. Only a quick bite, and then after I've done this, I will use the torque wrench again on these bolts to move them up to about 25 pound-feet, which is not an awful lot, but then they don't need a lot, because if you put too much weight on them, they will snap. I don't know. Well, the clutch is now installed. I torqued these bolts up in these bolts here, pressure plate bolts, in a star pattern. 25 pound-feet, which at least I hope is the correct pressure. So the clutch is now actually complete, as you see there, into the pilot bearing. What I can actually start doing now is, if there's nothing else I need to clean up, is to reseat this again. I can reinstall the transmission. So tomorrow morning I'll take some weight off the jack, lower it down, and I'll slide the transmission back under, and we can reinstall it, which shouldn't be so difficult. Speaking of that, let's have a quick look at the transmission. Okay, and here it is. It's not quite as clean as I thought it was, because I ran out of engine cleaner, but it's okay, it's sufficient for now. Okay, I did find that this is actually a Mazda transmission, a Mazda one piece with the bell housing included. Apparently the Mitsubishi transmissions have the bell housing. This part here can be separated, but okay. A couple of little points that might be of interest. This piece of yellow tape here, this represents the balancing point, the point of balance of the transmission. And why is that important? Well, it's kind of handy. It's when you put it on the jack underneath tomorrow when I lift it up. I'll put this point over the jack lifting plate, and hopefully the transmission should be easy to balance. I've blocked off all of the access points, ingress points for water, including this. And these are these two bolts I told you about before for help positioning the transmission. When you offer the transmission up, first thing you do is slide these two in the holes in the engine block, and hopefully it should just into place, with this into place, and then you put the top bolts in, and it should pull itself in and line itself up quite nicely. We'll do okay. So that should be all okay. If you remember this plate that covers the where the shift lever went in, had to put a piece of plastic in to protect it. And they said they needed a new seal because the seal was broken. Well, I went and bought a new one, and it looks like this. That's what it should look like. That's where all the oil was coming from, where the old seal was broken from. There's that. So that goes on there, and the shift lever comes through here. And if you remember that we had that this big nut on the shift lever, I couldn't figure out how to get it off. Well, of course, it's fairly easy to get it off. So there are two ways of doing it. One is that you take the nut off, you screw it on this end, and as you tighten it up, it pulls this, which is a cotter pin, out, and it separates these two parts. But because I damaged the threads on this, which is what I was scared to do with my grips, what I decided to do was just screw the nut back on a bit to protect the thread with a bit of a hammer, and there, it comes straight out. And if you take this off, that pin comes out, and then this comes off, and that's how you put your new seal on. So that's handy. Glad I figured that out. But that seal was remarkably expensive. It was like nearly $15. It comes in a kit, of course, with various bits and bobs that appear to fit over the that go over here. I guess to seal it properly, but I don't know. I'll figure it out because there's more than one of them. They're various different sizes. But again, I'll play around with them first, and I'm sure I'll figure them out.